Good morning, my dear audience. Welcome to GETI's Live Talk, hashtag Disruptive Education. This live talk was started by our founder director, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, solely with the aim to disrupt education and provide platform to educators, edupreneurs, education leaders, and school heads to come to our platform and share their ideas and knowledge and help the education fraternity. So, with this aim to disrupt education, we have a very special guest of ours with us today, Miss Shilpa Sharma. Miss Shilpa Sharma is a research scholar at a very
Thank you so
esteemed
much, ma'am. Good
institution
morning, everyone.
in Varanasi, and she is alongside a educator in Sunbeam Sun City in Varanasi only. She is very glad to be a part, of course, as she said, and she is a very hardworking person, and she loves to teach children, and that is why she is into this field. She is presently pursuing her research in the subject of chemistry, and she is a researcher. She wants to do all these research relating to the subject, and alongside she want to impart these knowledge to her students. So with this, we have our guest for today. She'll be speaking on experiential learning in education. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Zainab, ma'am, for such a wonderful introduction. I'm really glad that GETI has given me this platform. I'm really glad that I am a part of GETI's global disruptive education movement, wherein I've got a chance to play a key role in imparting knowledge as well as sharing my experiences to the students. As Zainab Man told, today's topic on which I am going to speak is experiential learning in education and how it will be helping students in achieving greater gratification in terms of knowledge and learning. At the same time, how it will be a part and how it is going to motivate students to bring about a change in the field of education. So, here we go. Zainab ma'am, I'll be sharing my PPT. Please let me know once it is visible.
It is very well visible, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you see my PPT, ma'am? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is visible. I can see your PowerPoint. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, experiential learning. These two are the very, very common words which we have come across in these 2 years. The post COVID, the pre COVID, and all these times we have been talking about experiential learning. Even NEP focus a lot on experiential learning. But the reason why I chose this topic today is though we have been very commonly talking about this topic, but still, in our minds, still there is a sort of confusion related to this topic. For all of us, even for me few days ago, experiential learning was simply learning from the experiences which we come across, the experiences which we face in daily life, or in short, we can call it hands on learning or learning by doing. But according to me, experiential learning is not learning by doing, rather, it is learning by not doing. Yeah, you heard it right. It is learning by not doing. Experiential learning, no doubt, we call it hands on learning. We learn a lot of things from our experiences. But when we call it learning by not doing, I'll quote a very small example and a very simple one for you, all of you to understand that what I actually mean. When I was a kid and was trying to learn to ride a bicycle, of course, with the help of my dad, who actually used to push the carrier all the time and give me a lot of instructions regarding you are not supposed to drive very fast, especially in the sand. There are chances of skidding, and you won't be able to drive, rather. At the same time, he kept on telling me you have to be very, very careful while taking turns. You have to simply take care when somebody's around, some vehicles, when you are in a traffic jam, this and that. I have heard and taken up all the instructions very, very carefully. But then, still, I made a lot of accidents. There were times when I scraped my knees and I was like, no, I do not want to learn this. I was highly demotivated because I used to feel that learning a bicycle riding is not my cup of tea. But gradually, my father kept on motivating me, gave me a lot of instructions, told me about my mistakes, where I went wrong, and gradually I learned how to ride a bicycle. And one fine day, when I was expecting my father, when I was expecting or thinking rather that he is helping me in propelling the bicycle, then I just turned around and saw that my father was about 300 meters away from me. And there I was. I yelled in excitement, Dad, I did it. And he was there yelling in excitement too, saying, See, I told you, you learnt it by doing. But no, I learnt it by not doing. Yes, it was my father who acted as a facilitator and telling me about where I went wrong, what mistakes I made, and what was all going on. If I kept on doing the same things again and again and again, repeating the same mistakes, I would have got the same results. No learning at all. But it was my father who acted as a facilitator and told me my mistakes, told me to improve upon my mistakes, told me to work it in a different manner and do it again. And that is, my friends, experiential learning. It is learning by not doing the same things again and again, repeating the same mistakes, and not reflecting upon it will not lead to learning. Learning happens only and only when you allow yourselves to make mistakes. Because creativity is the next step after making mistakes. You learn from your mistakes, you introspect on your mistakes, and redo the task in the same manner or a different as and when required, and you get different results. The results obviously will matter only and only if the results will change only and only if we will reflect. So, reflection is the key of experiential learning. As per Kolb, who is also known as the father of experiential learning, he gave an experiential learning cycle and he divided his cycle into 4 stages. The first stage is concrete experience, what we call as the knowledge, or we can say knowledge is equal to experience. We all have come across one or the other experiences in our daily life, and at the same time, the first hands on experience we have been having in our life is because of the knowledge we had. So, knowledge is just equal to experience, and collecting all the experiences, whether it be from instructions, whether it be by observations, we collect all such experiences. Once the experiences are collected, the important and the most important thing to remember is that reflection. Reflection on the observation is very important so as to accomplish a task in the right manner. Just accomplishing a task is not useful. The useful thing is if we reflect and complete the task in an effective manner. So, reflecting upon the mistakes, reflecting upon how a task can be done in a different manner, in a short time, in an effective manner, is the key. Once we do our reflection basis, we come to extract conceptualization, which is basically concluding or learning from the experience. What all reflections we did, like I gave you the example of bicycle riding in the same way. Once I fell and scraped my knees, I made accidents, I reflected that what mistakes did I make? Where did I go wrong? And from there, I learned and concluded that if I do a certain thing, I can be successful, and if I do not do a certain thing, I may not be successful. So, abstract conceptualization is the third stage. The fourth and the last stage is the most important, which is the application stage, which we also call as active experimentation. Once we have concluded, once we have come to any conclusion, the next step is planning and trying out what we have learned. Of course, because it is a cycle, as I said, it is not necessary that our experiments work always successfully. There are chances that we may go wrong again. But yes, There is another chance of reflecting again on the mistakes, redoing the task, coming out stronger, and again redoing, not doing, doing, and so on. So, in short, reflection is important for learning, and planning out the things in the exact manner is only possible once we reflect. Now, the major thought which comes to our mind is we all talk about experiential learning, but why? Why is it so important in the field of education? How are we going to relate experiential learning to education? So, I would simply say that, again, I would quote rather an example to understand this better. As you can see, this figure in front of you, audio visual lecture or a reading lecture will make your understanding really, really small because you just receive. Or in short, if I give an example, if I narrate you a story, let us say it is of a novel, of a person, or an autobiography, or maybe a film story. If I narrate you a story, you receive it. No doubt you understand the message behind the story. But then we cannot visualize or picturize things into our minds. We just receive it, and the understanding level is really, really low. But yes, when the same thing is demonstrated to us, maybe in the form of simulations, maybe in the form of exercises, or maybe demonstrated just like a practical is demonstrated in the lab, we understand it even better. And you can see the percentage goes as high as 75%. So it depends upon the level of demonstration, the person who is doing the demonstration, and the effectiveness of the demonstration, that how it is done. So once you're a part of that demonstration or a discussion or that play exercises, the understanding goes better. But yes, if you work with a coach and immediately practice what you have learned, what was being demonstrated to you, that is called learning by doing. And yes, of course, not only learning by doing, you keep your minds on, you work on that. You, if you conduct an experiment in the lab, if I just simply demonstrate the experiment, the understanding will be quite good. But when you perform it yourselves, definitely it is going to work wonders. You will understand wherein you went wrong, why did not you achieve the result. If you achieve the result, how effective it was, how accurate it was, how precise it was. So, learning by doing is, of course, the key, and that is the reason why experiential learning becomes equally important in the field of education. No education system can work effectively if there is no experiential learning. It has to go in a very smooth manner and along with the daily task, which is given by a teacher, by an educator, whether he acts as a facilitator or so. Now, when this experiential learning thing came into being, the teachers felt, the educators felt it as a threat. They thought that if all the students can learn from their own experiences, when all the students can be their own decision makers, the problem solvers, then what is our requirement? Why is the teacher needed in the class? When everything is to be done by the student, when the student centered classroom is supposed to be there. Well, it is not so. If I compare the traditional learning styles and the challenge based learning styles, we'll be we'll be able to understand this fact better that what a role of a teacher is. Well, in case of initially, when we talk about the traditional learning, in the traditional learning, we were told something to do or told something which we are supposed to know. What we call as the lecture method. A teacher used to come to the class, give a lecture, have a lecture on certain things. Maybe sometimes we had a smart class or a digiboard class, but then it was a lecture method. We were supposed to memorize the concepts which were given by the teacher. And finally, some problems were assigned to us so as to check our understanding level. So we faced problems. Of course, we will face problems because our understanding was not 200%, or rather, the extent was quite low. And the method was not supposed to be very, very effective. But experiential learning, which is known as the challenge based learning, also works in the reverse direction. Here, the problem is assigned first, and the students are supposed to come back to that problem, are the problem solvers, decision makers. They are supposed to keep themselves in that situation wherein they can solve a particular problem and identify all those phenomena, identify all those things which are actually required to solve that particular problem. So it is the students who are involved in this process more than a teacher. And finally, once they identify the problem, once they identify that what is to be done to solve the problem, then the application part happens. So the last part is the application here, which was also the part in traditional learning. But then the third process of traditional learning is the first process of challenge based or experiential learning. So the application part again comes with the reflection part. That means if a student applies certain things and the results are not as per the problem introduced in the classroom, he has to go back, reflect upon things, reflect upon his mistakes, and redo the things so as to obtain effective results. So, challenge based learning or experiential learning is still far better than traditional learning methods. And no doubts, a teacher plays a very key and important role in the experiential learning. Not only he acts as a facilitator and a subject expert, a standard setter and evaluator, but also a coach. Now, all these four things go hand in hand. A teacher helps a student, putting the student in the center, he helps the students to reflect on his mistakes, wherein he acts as a facilitator. He helps the students in problem solving wherever they are stuck, helps them with his experiences how to solve a particular problem or how to figure out the problem. Once the problem is figured out, the decision making again lies on the student. Again, if the methods are not decisive, the teacher again, acting as a facilitator, will help out the students. So, being a facilitator is something even more important than being a teacher who simply comes to a class and gives a lecture or a concept to memorize. Because when it is a teacher as a facilitator, it is a teacher who is learning as well. It is not only the students reflecting upon their mistakes, it is also a teacher reflecting upon his mistake. And a teacher, not like the teachers in the past, it is now a thing of a past that a teacher feels he's the most superior person and he's not supposed to be questioned. Rather, when it is a facilitator, he's acting as a facilitator, he's supposed to question himself. And yes, learning happens both the ways. It is rather an immersive learning style. Now, when a teacher acts as a subject expert, definitely a subject expert is expected to know a lot. He is expected to know even small details of the subject so that when he is being questioned, when he is being queried on various subjects, when various topics, he has the answer to it. And not only subject expert means having knowledge of the subject, it also means achieving those small goals which are being set up, small objectives which are being set up by the facilitator who was actually a teacher, so as to achieve those. The case studies, interpretation is the biggest example of the role of the teacher as a subject expert. A case study is given to the student wherein a student is supposed to interpret a lot about the case study. He is supposed to think about it, how to actually identify the case, how to work upon it, and how to deal with and finally come out with an inference. So, case studies are the example of your areas where a teacher can act as a subject expert. Of course, a teacher will also act as a standard setter and evaluator, which is again a most important role of a teacher, even in experiential learning. Evaluation. Evaluation is not just simply giving marks, it is not associated with giving marks or grades. It is actually reflecting these things to the students, how the things have been done and where the mistakes were made, so that the same things are not repeated again and again, and the student rather works in a better way. Again, Evaluation is the teacher is the most responsible person for giving this task. If the evaluation is not done properly, definitely the goal can never ever be achieved. And finally, acting as a coach. A teacher actually needs to help the students to achieve the desired objectives. When a teacher acts as a coach, he has to think from the student's point of view. He has to arouse their interest, work according to their interest, motivate them, know his or her weaknesses, and work upon them. So the role of a teacher was never less, even in the traditional education system, and now it is even more when we talk about the experiential learning, the EXL, what we call in short. The teacher was and will always be important. Here are a few examples of the traditional methods which we did, but then, yes, how can we also relate it to the experiential learning? These are the few examples which can be incorporated in the class. A project based learning, the case based learning, wherein the cases can be provided to the students, the clinical experiences, the grid system, mnemonic styles, field trip activities which can be dealt where the students can be taken to field trips. They can observe, they can make their own studies and cases according to them, and then they can unboggle those cases. The fellowships, the internships, the volunteer teaching in the classroom, the research which most of the institutes have started, the undergraduate research I'm talking of here, the simulations, the game playing, the role playing things, all these are to be done effectively. If a teacher manages to do all of them effectively, definitely the classroom will be very engaging, very interesting, and the learning activities will really be a fun. It is just not limited to memorizing of concepts. And nowhere in the NEP and nowhere in the future will memorizing of concepts be important to any one of us. That means not only the students, but also a teacher has to change his learning or reading styles. He cannot be limited to a book which is as per the syllabus. He needs to go beyond that, beyond the YouTube videos, beyond the content which is there on the internet, and think differently. And then incorporate those examples in the classroom. Only then the teacher turns out to be an effective teacher. Now, the question arises that what are the tools a teacher to facilitate this experiential learning in the classroom? So, though there are immense number of tools available on the internet today, wherein and the teachers are even using them. The most common beings we use Google Forms, we use Microsoft Forms, we use the Mentimeter, we use your Kahoot for quizzes in the classroom. These are the very common ones which has been used on a daily basis, or O labs when the practicals were not having been done practically possible. These were all virtual. We used O labs. It was quite useful for all of us. We used Edpuzzle and many more. But I've listed a top 10 tools which almost every educator and for almost all the subjects can be incorporated. And this is really helpful because I've even tried doing this in my classroom. These all tools which we may or may not be knowing about, and a few of them we might be using. But then certain tools like them which I've listed on the screen are really important. These tools not only help to connect the teacher to the students better, but also takes the students beyond the normal physical classroom, makes them imagine things, makes them come to a conclusion, makes them think, makes them interpret, makes them introspect. Parlay, Flipgrid, Edpuzzle, Peer Deck, and most of them, what we can do is we can make the learning completely student centered. The students can be divided and segregated into certain groups, wherein the students can be asked to make videos or answer video questions. That means the questions can be put forward to them in the form of videos wherein they can answer the questions and in the same mode, the video mode. Of course, visual learning is always better than the audio learning or simple a lecture method. So, visual learning helps them to retain better. That is the reason why I feel Parley, Flipgrid are exceptionally wonderful tools to be explored. These are those tools which help out the students to learn visually. And all of us know that the movies which we watch always create a better impact. We'll have still, once we see it and we remember it for a lifetime, so will the lessons be. If we use these tools, these are really, really going to help the students and also the teachers to create a very wonderful classroom, an effective classroom. Because it is very important for both teacher as well as the students to maintain a connect. When things went online, when things went virtual, the only thing missing was a connect. The students missed the school, the teacher missed the students. And it was all because of the connect which could not be established in the online education, which otherwise will be possible with these tools. To the maximum extent, we can maintain a connect. We can connect with the students. We can provide them digital worksheets. We can make them techno savvy, though the students are already, but then it has to be constructive as well. So I would just come to an end of my presentation with a small thought which is actually very big, but it was given by Benjamin Franklin, which stays exactly correct these days. It may not be realized past COVID, but then it is one thought which comes to almost everybody's mind and should be retained by everyone. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn. And as I told you, once a person is involved, the learning happens to the maximum. Teaching may help him to remember the concepts, but then not all of them. And telling is simply forgetting things. Even if we are told to do a certain thing, we forget it most of the times. If we are instructed, we may remember a few of them. But if we are involved in a particular activity, we know all the steps. I learn all the things which I'm being told to when I'm myself involved. So, involvement is very important, and that's what experiential learning means: involving thinking, observation, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making. All these are the parts of experiential learning. And this, my dear educators, friends, makes a student actually an effective student in terms of learning. And a classroom really effective, and the teaching learning process becomes equally enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilpa ma'am, for such an interesting presentation and telling us how, in the present scenario, our teachers can involve their students into experiential learning and what experiential learning is all about. That experience of yours of riding a bicycle in a wrong manner. So, experiential learning is about unlearning the wrong ways.
Exactly.
So,
You related it quite right, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
This is what I
So,
strongly believe that. Oh, I strongly believe that
yeah.
it is not learning by doing, but most of the times it is the things we did not do or we did not incorporate which actually works.
Yes, yes, and children learn all these in this experience in this present scenario. Like children learn when they are involved with each other. Like they are not together, but still teachers can make their groups, online groups, and they can discuss their things. Each and every student comes up with a different idea, and they explore these ideas together. So they learn experientially in this manner also. As we see, like senior students have started coming to the schools and at many places the junior ones are also coming, so teachers can now easily incorporate these hands-on learning with the children. But what my question is, hands-on learning is emphasized for the younger children mostly,
Right?
because like the little one, you teach them with Montessori material, and you they are like learning in their stage of learning, and we teach them by doing. So how, because like we are not still making our younger ones go to school. as far as of my knowledge and experience, younger ones are not going to school. So what will you recommend in this present scenario, how to give them experiential learning? As a teacher is sitting away from the child, and still how can she give her experiential learning experience?
Well, that's a very good question, ma'am. Definitely, when the small kids are not going to the school, and that is the age where the teachers are required the most, because that is when we actually develop a connect with our students. So sitting away from them, how experiential learning can be incorporated is simply like virtual field trips are very common these days, and the students, the kids, simply love doing that. The virtual field trips, taking virtually to visit a field, taking virtually to show them colors, to show them the difference between the various small colored butterflies or a plant or everything. These are really helpful for the kids. And at the same time, we have even now tools which are available like Bunsy. Bunsy is a very common tool which can be used for kids, wherein they can post small questions in the form of videos, and kids love making videos, and they will get engaged with those videos. There are pre-saved as well as the new lectures which can be posted over there, which is obviously animated things is still enjoyed by even our age group people. We always love to hear poems, we always love to hear songs which are animated. Cartoon is something which always attracts almost every age group people. So these are really helpful for the kids, wherein they can learn and explore a lot. And of course, learning is always a fun for all of them. Also, at the same time, I would also talk about Parlay here. Parlay is one such tool which is again useful for the kids. This tool is for the kids to make the learning effective. The teachers might not have explored this tool to the maximum, but yes, if we go for the paid version of it, we'll be able to learn things which we actually want to do in our class, and which are even not possible in the class but is actually possible virtually. So I would recommend these are the few tools for the students who especially at the younger age. Any other questions,
Thank you so
ma'am?
much. Thank you so much, Shilpa ma'am. And I would like to request my audience to come up with their questions, because I have got a very nice answer for my question. And I think my fellow teachers who are attending this session along with me, they'll use these apps which ma'am has told, and they'll go and explore these apps, and make their children do the virtual tours to different places, and maybe take help of the parents in providing these experiential learning to the children. So, ma'am, I don't see many questions coming. People are praising your presentation. They have learned a lot and all that stuff. They
Thank
haven't
you so much.
typed any question as yet. So we come to an end of our session. Thank you so much, Shilpa ma'am, and thank you so much, my dear audience, for staying with us and sparing your time to listen to this session of ours. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and please do watch our detox on our Global Dream page, which is the live talks, which are the live talk sessions for numeracy and literacy of underprivileged children, and there are policymakers and other dignitaries coming from around the world on that platform of ours. And also do visit our GETI website to see for our upcoming trainings. With this, we come to an end of our session. Thank you once again, Shilpa ma'am, and thank you, my dear audience. Have a lovely
Thank you
day.
so much,
Bye.
ma'am, for cooperating all the way through this session. And thank you so much, Giti, for giving me this platform. I really wanted this. And this is the day when I've started actually with Giti, and I'm really feeling wonderful to be a part of this global disruptive education program. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Giti.
Thank you.